Good. Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Shop and Chivalry podcast. My guest today, Robert. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Robert Blackman. I am the current Ward 5 Alderman for the city of Ocean Springs.
All right. And so this is your second term?
I'm running for a second term.
Okay, perfect. Well, do us a favor. Tell us about your ward.
Ward 5 encompasses everything from Ocean Springs Road to Hanshaw Road, Government Street, to Highway 90, and a portion north of Highway 90 from Ocean Springs Road to Dena, and basically back down Groveland.
So where Walmart is, Parktown, all that?
Parktown and Walmart are Ward 6.
Ward 6, okay.
So Dena
gotcha.
Road is close to the cutoff.
I see. Okay, wonderful. So you've got some residential in there as well, or plenty of residential, but some business in there too, right?
Correct.
Okay, excellent. And then how long have you been living in Ward 5?
11 years now.
11, okay. Yeah. And are you from this area?
From Pascagoula originally.
All right.
Grew up in Pascagoula, graduated Pascagoula High School. I met my wife at Pascagoula Junior High School.
Okay, wonderful.
Started dating her in 1985.
All right.
We made it through high school, college, and got married in 94.
Okay.
Had our one and only daughter in 96. In 2010, we built a home in Ocean Springs, and this is where we're planning to retire.
Well, fantastic. Yeah, I can appreciate that. I met my wife in piano class in high school. I had this thing about annoying the teacher by playing Cold as Ice on the piano in every song I could. It didn't matter what I was playing. If I was playing Beethoven, I found a way to work in the beginnings of Cold as Ice. Yeah.
Foreigner, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Now you got a background in music too, right?
I do. Started playing bass guitar in 1983. Mm-hmm. Played in several local bands around Jackson County. My current band, the $2 Beers, we play downtown Ocean Springs whenever we feel like getting out and doing it. It's kind of a hobby, you know.
Yeah,
it's something when music's in your blood.
100%.
You just don't get it out.
100%. Yeah. $2 beers. Can you buy $2 beer these days?
Very rarely. Yes, you can actually. Miller High Life and PBR.
Yeah,
that's typically your $2 beer.
It's so funny. When I was in the military, I flew and supported like some presidential support missions, and it took us for President Obama's last push in Wisconsin. We were in Madison and Milwaukee, and every bar was $1 Milwaukee's Best and PBR on draft. It was the cheapest beer. It's like, as Lewis Black says, it's like they have a federal grant for drinking.
That's right.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a good time. So what makes you want to get into the public eye and be an alderman for the city for your ward? Well,
I've always been around city government. Most of my employment career has either been for a city government or working with city governments. So I've been on the other side of the board table since 1998.
Okay.
I started municipal career with City of Pascagoula, Pascagoula Police Department communications officer. Left there and went to the building department as a building inspector. And left there, went to an engineering firm and kind of developed my trade a little bit more. Came over to Ocean Springs as building official, and now I'm with an engineering firm again in Biloxi, Machado Botano Engineering.
Okay.
So I've kind of been on the opposite side of the board table, dealing with the board, seeing how things operate. And I thought, well, you know what? I think I can do that. I can be of assistance with my knowledge of codes and ordinances, construction, engineering, and just be an asset to the city.
How does that experience help you do your job as an alderman?
Well, certain things come up with building codes and zoning issues. I kind of know what's going on and what's being discussed somewhat more than I'm not knocking anybody else on the board, but
sure.
I know these
you just got a different set
I've been a part of it, and I've worked that process before.
Yeah. Well, I would bet. So I grew up in Ward 5. I grew up Mark Daniels Circle, down the street from Jeff Mortensen, who's also running. My wife grew up in Gopar Estates, but I would imagine it's probably pretty comforting when somebody calls you and asks about a construction project, and you can speak to it not just maybe to what you're allowed to speak of, but maybe if they have questions about the process, you can speak very intelligently from experience about, well, how the process works, what they can expect, with probably a high degree of accuracy.
Right. Yeah. It's rewarding to be able to do that. It happens all the time. People call, what's going on here? What's going on with this project? Is this up to code? What do I need to do? Do I need a permit for this project that I'm about to do? And, I'll just send them to the right, department to take care of them when they do that. So,
is there too much regulation in Ocean Springs for what people can do on their own properties, you think?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, we try to preserve and protect as much as we can. But at the same time, property rights are an issue as well. So you're allowed to do by right certain things by code, and then certain things you can't. So it's all about setbacks and zoning.
Sure. And I guess the low-hanging fruit here, no pun intended, would be trees, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
absolutely.
So what are your thoughts on the way that we preserve and manage the trees here in Ocean Springs? Because they are important.
They are very
for
important.
practical reasons, but also from a sort of essence of Ocean Springs, right?
Right. Ocean Springs is a tree community. Bottom line.
Yeah.
We love our trees. We do what we can to protect them. This board takes some criticism over the handling of trees, especially with the abolishment of the tree board, which is, I'm sure, something you'll want to get into.
Well, as much as you want to, because I've heard it, from talking to people from both sides. I mean,
Sure.
I've heard everything from like, no, we definitely need to bring that back, to like, no, a smaller, more collaborative effort is actually needed with less official capacity, and I can appreciate that too. As somebody, because you're running as a Republican, right?
Yes.
So I would imagine that's kind of the philosophy in the back of your mind, like the individual property owner needs to really be heard on this thing,
Right.
Not
absolutely
not a regulatory body per se.
So I mean, if you decide you buy a piece of property and you want to build a home on it, and there's a tree that's protected in the middle of your lot that's hindering you from doing so, government stepped on your rights at that point by telling you, no, you can't build there.
Sure.
And I don't believe in that. I think everybody has a right to a certain degree to do what they feel like is best for their piece of property. And what happened with our tree committee is we would get tree applications, usually 3 or 4 per month, if not more. And it was no longer being run efficiently. So everything that came before the city was a no from the tree committee. 90% were no's. We hardly ever got a yes, even in true hardship cases. So they would appeal to the board, and then we would have to overturn their decision. So at that point, it kind of became useless to keep that as an operating board, because we were doing what was right by the citizens.
Yeah.
And the property owners. So that's why we decided to do away with that board.
So you said you had to overturn, right?
Correct.
Now, but aren't they just an advisory?
Recommending body.
Okay.
Right?
And so
they give their answer to the tree application. Somebody comes in, we need to cut a tree to build this home, or we have a tree damaging our property, our home, or our driveway, whatever it may be. They typically never saw the hardship and would always usually come back with a no.
And that's a recommended no.
That's a recommended no, but
for
to
who?
The board, recommended to the board.
To the board.
Here's what you should do.
Okay.
Had it been more, in my opinion, diligently looked at and on a case-by-case basis, and there had been some balance to where, this tree truly isn't a problem for you, you need to keep it. Absolutely, 100%. But when they would send no's over to the board, that should have been, we approve this, it became a problem. It became problematic.
Sure.
So we thought the best recourse was to put it in the hands of the building official. Some people don't agree with that, but we truly feel like it's more efficient. He tells us no. And when he tells us no, we think he's right. We go with it. We're not going to overturn everything. We don't want to cut every tree down. That's not the mission of this board.
Yeah.
The mission is to protect. We're a Tree City, USA city, and we need to maintain that. And we're following their rules and regulations to stay in that system.
Yeah. Well, what kind of character do you think the trees give the city?
They make the city. I mean, you just take a drive down Washington Avenue.
Yeah.
Go down Cleveland. Go down Cleveland Avenue.
Well, Porter's, that's a great example.
I'll give you an example of Cleveland. There's a home. I can't recall the address. It's on the south side of Cleveland, and it's a long driveway with just sprawling oaks.
I know the house.
All the way down the driveway. It's beautiful. I mean, my wife and I would just drive that street and stop and just look at that for a minute on occasion, because it's just such a serene view there, and it reminds you of looking at an old movie from way back when you'd see these tree-lined driveways to these old homes. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I think of images like driving down the driveway for the Masters.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. In Augusta, yeah. Beautiful town.
Yeah, so, and you probably haven't heard this, but people who have watched these sort of election coverage have. But for me, I had to leave and come back to appreciate Ocean Springs. I grew up here, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's sort of the story of the prodigal son, right?
Yeah.
But I come back, and I remember going over the tracks and just be enamored by the view of just these massive, strong oak trees and what they've withstood between all the storms and whatnot. And it seemed like Ocean Springs has this feeling where we have a mutual respect with the trees and nature, and they're allowing us to carve out a place around them,
right,
so we can live among them, and
absolutely.
that's the way it feels for me when I think of like the trees in Ocean Springs.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to live and you have to cohabitate with the trees, and I personally would never want to see anything happen to any of the trees that we have in town. And, we have an issue before us now with the one that was damaged during Hurricane Zeta.
Is that the one on Front Beach?
Fort Marpaw, Front Beach.
Beach, yeah.
It's a tough decision. I've asked and asked and asked for opinions from arborists or anybody that's got any idea how we save that tree. I've even gone down with Bobby Cox, Alderman at large, and we spent an hour down there just scratching our heads. What can we do? How can we shore this thing up to where it reestablishes a good root system? And
is that possible?
Anything's possible.
I'm sure if it's like got a low probability people, there's people there that say, well, it's worth trying.
Absolutely.
At least,
so what we haven't really pitched this out in public much, but we talked about having a couple of steel beams driven on either side of the tree in the direction that it's leaning, and putting a cross beam across that to support the tree until it reestablishes. And then we could always come back and pull that all out. But
how long does it take for a tree like that to reestablish?
That's the big
thing,
question.
Right?
Yeah, you'd have a certified arborist. Most of them won't touch this. We've asked for an opinion. How can we save it? They say, well, we're not going to give you anything in writing, but vocally, we think you can save it. But tell us how. That's the problem. We can't get a straight answer.
Is this like a controversial thing in the field of,
It's a liability thing. Okay, so we've had one or two arborists give us reports stating that the tree is a hazard because it leans over a playground and a park, and they recommend removal of the tree. We did vote for that, kind of knee-jerk, oh gosh, we're going to get sued if something happens.
Yeah.
We did go back and revisit and say, hold up, let's put the brakes on. Let's research this some more. Let's find a way to save this. Several 100-year-old oak tree. 4 or 5 people couldn't put their arms around this tree. It's huge.
In those same reports, did it give any recommendation or indication of whether or not the tree could be saved? Because it sounds like they were just talking about, okay, well, you definitely want to avoid the liability. Right. Obviously, you want to avoid the liability of that. But any word on whether or not it could be saved?
Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing at all. We're kind of on our own on that because we've reached out to other arborists. And like I said, some are willing to tell us, yeah, you could probably do something. We don't know what just yet. But nobody will put that in writing.
You should give me a recommendation of arborists, and I'll try to get them on here.
There you go. I will do that. I will shoot you a list.
Well, yeah. So, preserving the trees in Ocean Springs obviously is important. One of the things also I think that I kind of identifies with Ocean Springs are the arts and the culture.
Absolutely.
And that's something people want to lose. And it's something that people are very protective of. So how do you go about preserving the arts while also understanding that you've got to grow the city. The city has to change, it's got to evolve.
Right. Well, we are an arts community.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. We have many, many talented artists right here, homegrown artists from Ocean Springs. We have artists move here because of the art community.
Yeah.
Walter Anderson Museum of Art is a treasure. I served briefly on their board when I first was elected. Found out that there was a conflict for me being on that board and the Board of Aldermen, so I had to step down from that.
See.
Hated to do that because I really wanted to help take that in a positive direction, but they've done just fine without me.
Yeah.
It turned out, so we do give them a little bit of money per year. It's not a lot, but we try to help them out with what we can. We do own the building where the community center is. It's attached to the museum.
Yeah, gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
So we help maintain that, and it was just ended up, our attorney said, you can't do that, so I had to step down from that board.
What was the conflict? And just we don't have to talk about it.
Well, it's just that the city gives some money to that organization, and I was serving on that board, so I couldn't do both.
That makes sense. Yeah, as I've been interviewing the people running, I've had somebody reach out like, hey, you need to make sure you're making contact with everybody because there's like laws around this stuff. So definitely didn't realize that as well. So, what ideas do you have for the future of the arts in Ocean Springs?
Well, I just would like to see it continue to grow. Our festival, Peter Anderson Festival, our Spring Arts Festival. I don't know how you make those any better. The people that run those, the chamber runs.
Those are massive events.
Massive. They bring hundreds of thousands of people here, and I don't know how you make it better because it builds itself. Those events sell themselves. People want to come here for those events. Of course, we have things going on with the Mary C. We're trying to take that in a new direction. We've got some really good ideas being floated around, some good organizations getting involved. So I think you'll see some great things come from that here before long as well.
What are some things that are going on at the Mary C?
We do have a MOU in place with the Mississippi Songwriters Alliance.
So just to clear that up, a memorandum of understanding?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. That's fine. That's why I'm here.
Keep me on track, man. We've signed that with them, and they're going to be bringing some programming, shows, concerts, and things like that.
Excellent.
Once COVID kind of, settles down.
That's the big issue now.
That's the big issue, because that's kind of the hindrance for live music and art shows and classes, cooking classes, art classes. You can't have people in groups right now, and it's really, really frustrating because we could have already moved forward with so much in that facility alone.
Yeah.
And, same with WAMA. I'm sure they're struggling getting shows and like they used to have the little concert series there, and everybody's missing out on that, and we're just all ready for COVID to go away so we can keep everything rolling.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and the Mary C, they're the sort of cultural epicenter of the town.
Right.
One of the concerns I had was some of the classes that were offered at the Mary C were also offered downtown, like say painting classes and whatnot. What are your thoughts that it might be competing with local business?
There's always that concern because you don't want to put a local business out, but I think there's room for everyone. Because, I think the downtown little art studios and all have their niche, and you have the wood and wine event type things and all that, and I think they do well with that. And I don't think that's kind of the same thing you go to the Mary C or Walter Anderson for. I think it's kind of separate. That you more
historical, cultural stuff,
I
got you. More of an interactive museum type of culture thing.
Correct.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So I assume you guys are going to put probably a multi-studio podcast studio in there, right?
Absolutely. Actually, we do have a nice recording studio that's going to be modernized. And
okay.
So yeah, we might have to get you up there to do a show or two.
Hey now.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, if we could stay on the topic of the Mary C for something that I do like to talk about, because it is a contentious issue, you know,
Absolutely.
and it was a sort of fallout of the Mary C, and you know, I kind of describe it as being, it was kind of like people in your family airing out their dirty laundry on Facebook, you know,
right.
Like if it's a family issue, let's talk about it between family members, but to put it out there just got nasty, you know. It just felt gross. Do you want to give some insight into how all that went down, or what the issue was, or the structure of it at the time, maybe what it is now?
What happened was, you know, there was just the group running the building just didn't seem to be on board with what the city was on board with. Mm-hmm. You know, we asked for certain things and were told no, and, you know, we give a substantial bit of money to that building or to that organization every year.
How much is that?
It's around $40,000 between building maintenance and salaries that the city gave to that group.
Is that what they're obligated, or what they actually gave?
That's what we actually gave.
Oh, okay, gotcha,
right.
Gotcha. Because there's an obligated amount too, right?
The obligated was about $25,000.
Yeah, okay,
yes,
gotcha.
Which is strictly for the building maintenance and upkeep.
And so they're supposed to bring in their own revenue, develop their own revenue for that.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And we just didn't think that the direction was going where it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Not that, you know, I'm not going to bad mouth anything, because they had some great things there. They had great ideas. They had great programming. It just became infighting between them and the city, you know. So we asked for things to go one way, and it wouldn't. So we finally just decided, we're going to cancel your contract, and we're going to bring you to the table, and we're going to renegotiate. Negotiations went on 3 or 4 different meetings. You know, we thought everybody was walking away on the same, I'm not going to say the same page, but kind of understanding.
Slowly getting closer towards
right.
an agreement.
You know, there was no intent for that group to leave the building on the city's part. All right, we strictly wanted things to be restructured and run what we deemed appropriately based on that we own the building and we put so much money into it. And things just went south from there. They decided to leave, and we wish them well at their new place of business. But we're going to move on. They're going to move on, and hopefully maybe one day we can all come back to the table and do some things together.
So, and feel free to stop me in any of this questioning, because you know, I'm not sure if there's litigation issues or what have you. But you know, if you're willing to share, what did the city want? What did the Friends want? You know, where was the gap? What can you talk about?
Well,
and if it's nothing, that's fine too. We can move on.
It's hard to say. We asked. I mean, I'll just tell you, we asked them to not cancel a contract with another group that was operating out of the Mary C, that they had a direct contract with.
So the Friends were contracted with the city. Mm-hmm. This other group was contracted with the Friends.
Right. And
you wanted the Friends to do the city a favor and say, please don't cancel.
We asked them, hey, before you do this, let's talk. They rushed a vote through the same day we asked, canceling this group's contract. So we was like, okay. So we sent a letter saying, don't cancel their contract. You know, hey, we want to talk about this. So they did it anyway. And that's what kind of started the ball rolling, you know. And then we started looking into other things and just said, you know, we're putting a lot into this. We need to maintain this building a little better than it's being maintained because it is an important building to this town.
Yeah.
And we just, like I said, decided to try to renegotiate with them, you know. And the first step was to cancel their contract, you know, and we had hoped that it would be negotiated where everything would work out, but it just didn't work out that way.
You know, people might view that as the first stage of kind of creating a major conflict. It's canceling their contract. But of course, there could be something in that contract, and I don't know. I'm speculating, obviously, where it's like, hey, you should work with the city when you make, when you make subcontracts and whatnot. You chose not to do that, and it's. While it may be obtuse, it's perfectly common for somebody to cancel a contract to force a renegotiation. Right.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm just trying to be objective here because the city, somebody hears, well, so therefore the city decided to cancel the contract. Well, without context, that's going to look like, well, why in the world would the city just do that? It looks like they're pouting.
Right.
But that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do.
I mean, it brings everybody back to the table to negotiate when they don't want to.
Sure.
So it just kind of forces it.
And if you read the Gulf Live article, one of the conversations that I had with an individual involved was based on the Gulf Live article. I'm surprised y'all didn't cancel it sooner because that place didn't earn money.
No,
and I think it wasn't until like fourth quarter of last year that the kitchen even became profitable.
Right.
So there were some obvious money problems, and those problems, those financial issues got passed on to the city.
Sure.
And because the city has a vested interest in preserving that building.
Right.
So at some point, for footing the majority of the bill, to me, it's reasonable for the city to say, well, can we have a little more say since we're paying some of the stuff, But
you just pretty much nailed it. I mean,
is that? Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to think through it objectively. That's all. Yeah.
You're right on track, man.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty much where we are with that, and hopefully we can move forward, like I said, and develop some other kind of relationship down the road and bring everybody back, that wants to be there.
Gotcha. So that decision to do that. Okay. Was that a public decision?
It was a public decision.
Okay.
There was some discussion, and I know where you're going with this, executive session.
Yeah. I told you we're going to talk about it.
Happy to jump to that. Yeah. So we knew there was the potential for litigation, and I know potential litigation is not a strong word as far as reasonings to go in executive session.
It is a reason. It just happens to be the most common, and so people think it's...
It does. Yeah. At least we're not saying general litigation, because that to me is even more broad.
Okay.
And there again, I don't want to say anything because there's still the potential for litigation here.
I understand.
And there's still things outstanding that I can't discuss.
Right.
But it was brought back to executive session. We talked about the possibilities surrounding all the issues about what the outcomes would be litigation-wise. And, there again, that's all you can discuss back there, because believe it or not, our city attorney will get up and slap us with a ruler like a Catholic teacher if we get out of line back there.
Right.
So she keeps us in check, and we strictly talk about the litigation process that's going to happen. We felt like was going to happen no matter what we did with that. So that's how it went down.
And then coming out of the executive session, then you hold the public.
Correct. That's when the vote was actually made, was in public. There's no vote made in executive session. That's just discussion with the attorney about the possibilities of litigation and the effects of the litigation.
I see. Okay, wonderful. Well, what are your views on the use of executive session? Do you think that during the time that you've been an alderman, it was maybe used a little too much?
At first, there was a lot of executive sessions, but it was, there again, they're all legitimate legal matters that you don't discuss. And there's an attorney-client privilege there that you don't discuss in the public. Absolutely, it's used too much. I wish we'd ever had one, personally. Because there's nothing worse than going back there and sitting there and knowing in the back of your head that everybody's outside wondering, what are they talking about?
Sure.
I'd much rather do it in public.
Yeah.
But you just can't. When the attorney says, you can't talk about this in public because this is going to trial, or you're going to be sued for this, or we're suing for this. We just can't discuss that in public.
Well, on the other end, if you know you're going to get sued and you go into executive session and then let's say a decision is made in executive session or what have you, or it goes a different way and you still get sued, what's the real thing you're avoiding if there's litigation on both sides of the decision?
There again, it's
I'm generalizing, obviously.
We're relying on our attorneys to tell
okay.
us this is an executive session item. We need to discuss this in the back. Do I like it? No. I don't think anybody likes it.
And to be fair, the city attorney is looking out for the legal best interest of the city.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's what they're paid to do.
So it's one-sided, but because that's who's employed.
Right. They're looking out for our best interest, and when a lawsuit comes up that nothing is said that can be, used in that trial if we say something out in the open.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm one of the things I'm surprised about is that I haven't been asked to turn over, the podcast I've done,
right,
like the final cuts to the city attorney. But again, I'm pretty above board on things, So, but okay, yeah. So that again, that was a common question I got was about the use of executive session and I think most people just have this view of like, well, why can't you talk about it in public?
Right.
And we start speculating, we start thinking like, well, what's so bad, or what are you trying to protect yourself from?
Well, my answer to that would be, if you hire an attorney to represent you in a lawsuit, are you going to go to the newspaper and interview publicly with him and talk about things that you don't want your person suing you to know?
I've got a perfect answer. I'm going to do exactly what my attorney tells me to do.
Exactly.
And if that attorney recommends an interview, they'll be right beside me.
You're right. So if our attorney says, yeah, this is a general discussion item that needs to be out in public meeting, that's where it's going to be.
Yeah.
So we rely on them. It's not like we arbitrarily say, hey, I want an executive session.
Yeah.
And go back there and talk about whatever. And I think that's the perception. People think we go back there and just discuss whatever. But like I said, our attorneys, they will do everything short of getting up and knocking you out and say, you got to shut up. You can't talk about this back here. So when we get off track, that's what happens. And it does. Yeah. I'm not going to say people don't, we'll be talking and then all of a sudden somebody brings, well, we can't talk about that. We have to stop them all the time and make sure we stay on track.
Like any group discussion.
Sure. There's
like any group discussion.
It's not like you and I sitting here talking. We can't even do that. We can't talk anything but that business item that's the motion was made for executive session. And that's it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, let's move on.
Yep.
Okay. You made it through it.
Yeah, hey, we're good. Let's go to some positive stuff.
There we go. So there's talks about expanding the city, and so I'd like to start from maybe the outside in. And the first thing I'd like to talk about is how do we make the entrances to the city more visually marketable? Because coming down from the north, say from I-10 or St. Martin, there's not a lot of room there unless we expand up that way. And there's that's a discussion I'd like to get to at some point. To the east, there isn't much, and then to the west, over Biloxi, we're throwing up a Dollar General next to a pawn shop that before that has a very unattractive, gas station right there. Yeah. So what do we do about that?
Well, I wish I would have brought a rendering of the Dollar General to show you exactly what it's going to look like.
I tell you what, if you want to get one, no. If you can get that to me, I'll put it up on my website, if I'm allowed to, obviously.
Absolutely, I will. It's public record. It's a permit application that's approved. Man, do I want to see a Dollar General there? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But the last time a board denied a permit application for a by right use for a piece of property, cost the city right at $1 million.
Okay.
There was a little project called Sycamore way back. I don't know if you ever heard about that.
No.
But that's another story for you to look into.
Okay.
All right. Cost the city a lot of money.
The great thing about the podcast, I don't have to take notes. I just go back and listen to it.
That's right. So the Dollar General, at least, to me, looks much better than even the one on Government Street.
Now that's some bold words there.
Looks better.
Really? Okay.
Same kind of facade, taller roof line with dormers. Very, it's attractive for a Dollar General. It is what it is. But
the carcass from, the way the structure looks right now, it's very surprising.
Right.
It doesn't look like it's going to be
not your standard
Dollar General.
Right. And that's the beauty of our design review process. When permits or applications are submitted, our planning department goes to work, and they have a checklist, and it's a point system. So you get so many points for a brick facade, so many points for sidewalks, so many points for decorative lighting, bench seating, bike racks, you name it. There's a point system, and they have to reach a threshold of points before they're issued a permit.
Interesting.
Everything has to have a certain look. You can't just, the Dollar General that's out on East Highway 90 couldn't even be built on Highway 90 anymore because it has to have a look.
Okay.
The monument sign, they could have put a bigger sign up than what they're going to be putting up, but they chose a lower monument type sign that's more attractive and more along the lines of what we're trying to achieve here in Ocean Springs.
Now, you mentioned all those points were necessary to reach a threshold to get a permit. Right. And so they get a permit. Now, is that the same as your business design, your construction design is approved? Like that's what you're allowed to build? Or is that just, hey, yeah, you could get a permit if you do at least this stuff, but we still need to approve a final rendering?
There's a minimum, correct. Okay. That's for a minimum that's required. Most developers go above and beyond that typically, and we do try to encourage that. But the actual, I'm getting ahead of myself. I said permit. So it goes through the design review, then it goes to building for permitting.
Okay.
The building department checks the plans and specs for continuity with, the Unified Development Code and all city ordinances and make sure that's covered. Fire department looks at it, Public Works looks at it, and then they issue the permit once everybody stamps off on it.
Interesting. Okay. And so you're saying we're going to be impressed by this one, huh?
Well, impressed may not be the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
Because it's still a Dollar General.
Well, I get the sense from citizens that the bar is pretty low. Like, people are legitimately, I didn't know that it was happening until it was like the first week in December, and somebody who doesn't live around here came down and posted, and I saw it on my timeline feed that, I can't believe the first thing you see coming over the bridge is going to be a Dollar General. And that's when I first learned about it. But
actually, it's about the third thing you see, but that's
exactly. Yeah, fair enough. I had the same thought when I was like, yeah, well, I see your point. I mean, because honestly, the first big business you see is on the left, the seafood place. McElroy's. Yeah. Which
Great
is
place,
yeah. Nothing to wag your finger about there, but maybe the pawn shop.
Pawn shop. Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, these are businesses that have been there for decades. The hotel, the gas station, pawn shop, AutoZone. It's unfortunate that that's our entry into that side of town, because I wish we could have so much more better.
Is there anything the city can do to incentivize improvement or anything like that, or?
There's always, incentives that we can do to attract businesses, and tax incentives, tax abatements, things like that. TIF zones, we've actually met in Jackson last year with some representatives and worked out the entire Highway 90 corridor is a TIF zone now. So if somebody needs assistance with infrastructure for a new project, that's covered if they apply and get the TIF,
Interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, there's all kind of incentives that can be at play to attract businesses.
Yeah, excellent. Well, let's move down the road to East Ocean Springs then.
All right, my side of town.
There you go. So yeah, I'm sure you have a lot of ideas, and one of the things that was brought to my attention, you get weekends where you get 300-400 kids that come into Ocean Springs to have these baseball.
Sportsplex,
yeah, exactly. All these tournaments, and then it was. Again, I don't have kids, so there's a lot of things I don't think about, and it's like, well, when you drive out of there, what direction do you go to get food? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, you hope that people are going to turn right. They got to make two right turns, and you got to hope that they're going to do that, and in order for you to capture some of those disposable dollars.
And they do, because I think our employees out that way, and the parents, the local parents, I think they meet these people and they talk to them. They say, well, where do we go eat? What's there to do here? And they tell them, it's like you said, take two rights.
Yeah.
And just keep driving, and you're going to see something that you like. So I think it's a big word of mouth thing at those tournaments and all, because our businesses out east, Woody's, they kill it all the time. And especially, I've been in there and seen these teams from out of state come in there and, just have a great time.
Yeah.
And spend a lot of money here in town. So that's just one example. El Saltillo, they stay full with baseball teams when they're in town, or soccer teams or whatever. There's just a vast amount of people that come through there, like you said, and a lot of people have discovered this town because of that.
Yeah. Well, and what concerns me though is that the closest, largest food staple is actually left turns out of there going to the shed.
Right. Oh yeah, they definitely are attracted to that too.
Yeah.
They've all heard of the shed. I get that all the time. Like, where's the shed? Is the shed the best barbecue? I'm like, well, the shed's good barbecue.
Your shed's good barbecue.
I'm not gonna say they're not the best because I'll get in trouble for that. But, no, the shed is great. But, Murky Waters is great. Pleasant's barbecue is great.
Look, I've been playing basketball with this boy since I was young. So we see him there all the time.
And Mike's a great guy. Mike's
great
a friend of mine, and I haven't been eating there as much as I want to. I mean, it looks like I have, but I work in mostly over in the east side of the county during the day, so my lunches in Ocean Springs are few and far between now. But I get over there and see old Mike every now and then.
Shout out to Mike Pleasant.
That's right. Oh yeah. I mean, Pleasant. I mean, there's not a bad barbecue joint in this town.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
There's not bad food in this town. I mean, I'm getting off track. I know. Yeah, you got me talking about food. I'm all excited, man.
Well, like Orange Wise, you got a bagel shop in town, and exactly.
Great
So
place.
yeah, there's fantastic food. My buddy who was down here, like I said, in that leadership course or whatever, he spent a lot of time in Ocean Springs just with the food. And I mean, Scratch Kitchen, another great place.
Oh yeah.
But there's too many to name, honestly.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I could go on and on.
Yeah, for sure.
Got to give a shout out to Government Street Grocery though.
Yeah.
That's my spot. I mean, if I'm downtown or I want something to eat or at the house, I don't feel like cooking, I tell my wife, let's go to the grocery. And she knows, she already knows before I say it, we're going to the grocery, aren't we?
Yeah.
And so we just love it. We love that spot.
And I'm sure you played there a number of times too, right?
I've not played there except for open mic night because before they're more of a not a cover band venue. You know what I'm saying? They mostly hire original, somewhat regionally touring acts come through there. And, I've seen some really great music there.
Okay, I haven't been to the grocery since pre-COVID, honestly.
Really?
So, yeah. But need to get back out there.
Great food, great stuff.
I got the vaccine, so.
Yeah, all right. Another place, you talk about playing music. We're playing on the 19th at Mosaic, and that's another fantastic spot.
Yeah.
Can't say enough about Ken Williams down there that owns that place. He's jam up guy. Arturo that used to own it was a good friend too, and we miss him. But Ken's taking that legacy and keeping it going, and has done a fantastic job with that venue.
Yeah, and it's deceiving from the street.
It really
like
is.
There's a lot in the back,
yes, there is.
and that's one thing I told my buddy because. He's like, oh, so there's no bars past Ocean Springs Lumber. I said, well, there's one more.
Yeah.
And so we drive by and he's like, what's so great about that place? See, that's the thing. It's got this huge deck in the back. It's got a stage. I mean, it's really well done back there. There's a bar back there. It's fantastic. So great scene.
Oh yeah.
And I told him too. He's like, man, you're so lucky to live here. And I was like, well, first of all, I know, but second of all, this is not what it looked like when I was in high school.
No.
This happened afterwards. I mean, after Pleasance, there was a gap where there wasn't much there.
That's right. So you got to the gas station at the corner.
That's right.
There was the Cleaners, I want to say, back then, and the
that
gas
sounds familiar.
station.
But then again, we had Loveless too.
That's right.
Had the drugstore.
The drugstore. Yeah.
Fortunate loss there, but
I can remember mid '80s driving through Ocean Springs, going to. I can tell you exactly when it was. 1984, January of '84. Going to see Van Halen at the Coliseum.
You know what's funny? I saw Van Halen at the Coliseum.
Did you in '84?
Yeah. No, not in '84.
Right, so
not in '84.
'84, man.
It's right, 2004. Honestly,
my dad took myself and a couple of friends from junior high at the time, and I remember driving through Ocean Springs, and the only thing on Ocean Springs was a McDonald's that I can remember. It just sticks in my head. I even remember where it was. It was if you came north on Holcomb, and crossed Highway 90. It was right in that area where there's a little real estate office now. And just for some reason, little things like that. That's the one thing I remember about Ocean Springs as a kid was I want to stop at that McDonald's on the way to see Van Halen, you know?
I'll bet you that concert itself is a time capsule because, you know, when you walk in there, so my dad was actually working security, and that's how I got to see. So it was Van Hagar. So it was Van Hagar.
Saw that in '86 at the Coliseum. So
but so I went and saw that. I think I had a buddy with me, but it's just like everyone's in black leather, and it was like it was so cool to see. But they had the huge like Van Halen symbol stage, and people were inside the symbol. It was pretty rad. Oh yeah, it was pretty rad.
Very cool.
Yeah, but that's funny. That's funny. Well, you know not to get out of Ocean Springs too far, but the Broadwater.
That project, if it ever gets
property,
off the ground there. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what a huge thing that would be for that area and us. I mean, I think we get the spillover from that, you know. We get that already. That's the beauty of living in a community next to a community with casinos.
Yeah, for sure.
All we had to offer. Wow, I mean, it works hand in hand, you know. But that venue will be phenomenal if they build that.
Assuming, and here's the problem with large projects in Biloxi that I have, we can throw the baseball stadium into this.
Right.
The sports teams that have come and gone from the Coliseum have a hard time maintaining the interest level long term.
Right.
And so my concern, because that's going to stretch all the way to Pass Road, the Broadwater Golf Course is going to come back, you know, all of that. And my concern is, can you actually attract the talent to make it a destination? Now, if you can, that's fantastic for the entire music scene from the Gulf Coast, because these small pockets of areas in like downtown Biloxi and Gulfport and Ocean Springs, where you have these pocket venues, you know, dive bar type things, those are going to explode with people trying to compete and, you know, get into these larger venues. So that's a good thing.
It is. It's going to bring a lot of talent to this area.
Yeah.
A lot of talent. And it's going to bring out local talent.
That's for sure.
So to really put them up, you know, not that I'm going to be one of them, but, you know, because I mean, we're just a little garage band.
Never say never.
But, you know, we have a good time.
Are you familiar with Rock U?
Rock You Too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, so I didn't realize their impact nationally. For those who don't know, Rock You Too. It's they do everything from acting lessons to choreography, dance in general, singing,
instrument lessons.
Yeah,
you name it.
Have you been in the building?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I took a tour a few months ago, and it was an old. Assisted living
facility.
Yeah, and so you have a bunch of these rooms, and so what they've done is they've soundproofed all the rooms, and so they've got a guitar room, a piano room, all this stuff, and they have people fly in to Gulfport, and they drive over so their kids can like, you know, get the training, and he feeds like American Idol and America's, you know, Got Talent, all those shows with talent that he produces. People don't realize the talent factory that exists within Ocean Springs.
I recall that facility when it was on Jackson Avenue. I was the building official here when they opened that up.
Okay.
The old ice house on Jackson Avenue.
Yeah.
So that's where they started, and it just blew up. You know, they didn't have enough parking at that point, you know, because they just couldn't keep up. So they needed a bigger facility. So they ended up getting that one here on Government Street by the fire station, and that's worked out well for them, I believe.
Yeah, I've tried to get him on the podcast.
He's a good guy. Him and his wife.
Great guy. Really genuine, pure people.
Yes.
Yeah. But didn't work out. Oh well.
Keep trying. Man.
Yeah.
He's a busy man.
Yeah, for sure. And he gave me the tour of the facility. I tell you what was so bizarre about that was walking through that building. The building's soundproof, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's weird to have a conversation because
there's no echo.
There's no echo.
Nothing. Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah. It's dead silence.
Yeah. It was amazing. And when we were talking about the podcast, he's like, "Do you have a studio?" I was like, "Well, no. At the time, I'm mobile.
Right.
We can go to your house, whatever." And I was like, "But we could totally do it here.
Yeah.
That'd be perfect."
Absolutely.
I was really looking forward to hearing what things sound like. But but anyway, getting back to Ocean Springs.
Sure.
So East Ocean Springs. There's talks from some of the people running that they want to develop East Ocean Springs. There's a lot of reasons for that, right?
Absolutely.
You can increase the tax base. You can bring those disposable dollars. Keep them in the city, which I don't disagree with. But I wonder at what cost. And then how much investment are we putting into developing East Ocean Springs? What are your thoughts on developing East Ocean Springs?
Well, it's I've used this term a lot. It's an untapped area. I mean, utility services are already in place out there. The city has water, sewer already in place that they did years ago in anticipation of that growth. So hats off to previous administrations for having that vision of putting that in. Currently, we do have the new apartment complex going in between Tractor Supply and 57 North Side.
Okay.
So they bought that property. Some of the same people that were involved with the inlet are building this complex out there. Maybe the whole same group. I'm not sure exactly, but they've cleared the area. They've done the earthwork, and hopefully, I think they're about to start coming out of the ground with those. I'm not sure how many units that is. I can't remember. I looked at it, but that's right outside of my ward. But
yeah.
It's going to be very nice, and I'm hoping that spurs additional development. Like you said, the Tractor Supply went in 4 years ago, and that was a huge asset. I think that kind of started the trend that way, because that was the furthest thing out at that point. And it's going to hopefully develop, I call them pocket communities, where you have a apartment complex. And I've got this from Atlanta. My daughter lives in Atlanta now. Going to see her where she lives, it's an apartment complex. Whole bottom floor is retail, restaurants, shops, you name it. Then right around that, Walmart across the street, Whole Foods across the street. She can walk wherever she needs to go and get anything she needs, within a half-mile radius almost. And I'm hoping that something like that gets spurred off of this new apartment complex. I'm hoping that, some small businesses to say, if somebody comes and builds another strip center or something, I don't know that that's the right term or what I really want to look for, but somebody needs to start some kind of growth out that way. And, we're always constantly looking for somebody to approach and say, hey, why don't you locate out in East Ocean Springs? Help kick it off. Let's kick it off down there and really, because you've got a built-in captive audience basically with Gaucher, Van Cleve, and East Ocean Springs that it's all convenience.
Yeah.
For the people who just don't want to go downtown or don't want to go to Biloxi, don't want to run over to Mobile for something, that would be a great little hub. Now, I'm not talking something large scale with a bunch of box stores. I'm just talking, an anchor. I think we talked about this. One anchor store, something that's large enough to attract some out parcel construction in front of.
Yeah.
Similar to Walmart. You got Walmart with the little shops and all out front.
Yeah. Walmart starts and then everybody comes around.
Everybody comes around. Yeah. And I don't mean something even that vastly large. Just something big enough to spur these other pop-ups to come around. And I think that's how you start the process.
Well, what do you have in mind?
I don't.
Oh, gotcha.
Gotcha. I don't know exactly what's needed. Well, I'll take that back. I think we discussed this too earlier on a sporting goods store. We talked about what leakage we have leaving Ocean Springs going to D'Iberville and other cities. We don't have anywhere. Huge sports community. We have to go to D'Iberville to buy everything we need, either from Dick's or Academy. And I just don't see an opportunity of getting one of those to locate that close to D'Iberville. Possibly, but I doubt it. I think there's an area that they have to be spread out from each other. That would be something that I've wanted to look into, is some type of sporting goods store, a larger one that would support our youth and coaches and staff here, where they have somewhere local to go spend their money rather than up there. And I'll tell you another thing, and this is going to surprise all my guy friends out there.
Okay.
What we need out there is an Ulta.
Okay.
All right?
Go on.
Every time my wife sitting there getting ready, she runs out of hairspray. Oh, I'm out of hairspray. Got to run to Ulta.
Well, that's a trip.
Yeah.
That's a trip.
Just for hairspray. The women get accustomed to one product, and that's all they're going to use. And that's where they buy it most of the time. So I would love to have an Ulta here because I think it would be a huge revenue generator.
Well, let me tell you, I'm down with that because Ulta has kind of gotten so big on the backs of really YouTube. There's people on YouTube that like my wife watches somebody put on makeup. You know what I mean? Like that's a thing now. Granted, I watch people build projects on YouTube,
sure.
so you know I can't really blame her. But so there's all these people that are creating these small makeup companies, and Ulta has all of it.
Has every bit of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, that makes perfect sense.
It does.
To me.
I mean, that's just something that a business that I've really thought about having our mayor approach and say, hey, let's talk about getting you here, because I mean they're small enough they could. I've been in larger cities and there's one within 5 or 6 blocks of each other.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sure between DeIverville and East Ocean Springs we could support those 2 Ultas. So.
Sure. Yeah. My concern with development in East Ocean Springs sounds like it might be your apprehension too, is too much development.
Yes.
or the wrong development. I think, like I've heard people say, imagine if we had Sangani Boulevard in East Ocean Springs. And I think personally, like I can appreciate why that's attractive, but you also have to account for the parts that you don't like.
Right.
The traffic problems.
Traffic's the main thing.
All the, not just traffic difficulty, but the influx of traffic in that area that will also be exiting the area possibly to the west, and that's going to create more traffic downstream, so.
Sangani, great idea on the interstate. Great idea.
Yeah.
It's still got its issues with in and out traffic.
Yeah.
You got that weird diversion diamond you got to go through, which just still throws me off. I can't imagine having to do that daily.
I'm good as long as I'm following somebody,
exactly.
right?
Try doing it on a motorcycle. I'm like, wait, I'm fixing to go head on here, aren't I? No, so it's scary at times, but no, it's a great development out there, and I wish we had interstate acts or within the city limits like they do, and we might one day. You never know. That would be a great thing to do in an area like that. But traffic influx it's bad enough already. We all know Highway 90 is an issue. I'm not going to bash MDOT because they do what they can. Everybody says, why don't they synchronize the lights? Well, they've done that several times. We've at our request, we've called.
It just needs to be upgraded, I think.
It does. I mean, something needs to happen. I don't know if we have too many lights, not enough lights, or I don't know what the issue is.
Surely the technology exists to have like an infrared camera set up that
would
can
think. Yeah, to say, okay, wait a minute, this light's turning green, this one's red, and everybody's fixing to get hung up here. It has to be something. And we've asked the local MDOT rep here to help us out. And every time they do something, and it seems to help slightly, but then it gets worse. So I don't know if whatever they're resetting or setting up in their traffic light systems is resetting itself and going back to where it was or what. But, there's got to be a relief. They were supposed to have started the widening project this year. 2021 was the start date, and MDOT didn't have financing for it. So it's been pushed. Don't know till when. We have not got that response. This is something else I'll be asking in Jackson in March when I'm up there is, when will that project get underway? The survey, I think engineering and all is pretty much done. They just don't have the money to do the project. So I will be finding that out in March and hopefully know a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, when we think about dropping a box store in, right? Obviously, we want to get it right.
Absolutely.
So I imagine, maybe a Walmart is probably, and obviously it's a bad example because there's a Walmart right there. Yeah, but I think of hopefully something with a more affluent client base, because that does kind of fit Ocean Springs a little better. It'll probably attract the right businesses too, like a World Market or something.
Be great.
But, yeah.
There again, I know another topic I'm sure you'll want to get into, and I'll go ahead and bring it up.
There you
since
go.
You're talking about, your Whole Foods, your Trader Joe's. Everybody wants that here.
Yeah.
And they want to be here. We've talked to them. They want to be in Ocean
It's what I've heard.
Springs.
It's what I've heard from people in the city is that
And why they won't come.
it's because the ABC in Mississippi.
They cannot sell alcohol in their stores.
And it's not so. So I was also told that the problem with Mississippi and the ABC is that you can only get one
license.
One license, and that's for the state, right?
The entire state.
The entire state. So if there's another World Market in Mississippi, which there's not, then.
So Whole Foods came into Jackson. All right, one Whole Foods in Mississippi is in Jackson, and it has the one liquor license. That's why we don't have one.
So we
here.
will not have.
We will not have one as long as they can only have one. If you go get a liquor license to open a liquor store, you can't open a second store.
Isn't that wild?
One store. I don't get it. And we've had discussions with Senator Wiggins and Representative Zuber for 4 years. And they've really worked on it for 4 years, and they're getting closer. And there's more involved. That's the two we deal with locally. They're getting closer. Like I said, I think they have a bill on the floor right now to allow home delivery of wines. And I think liquor as well. I'm not positive on that. I haven't read the whole thing.
I think so.
But that's a step forward because people want that, especially in this time and age. People don't want to go. Some people don't want to go out and about.
Yeah, there's an opportunity to take care of something that should be common sense, but also progresses the cause. Yeah.
And I hate to make alcohol a big issue, but it is.
It's literally an economic driver.
It is,
and especially in this case.
It's hindering us from being able to attract the businesses that we need here. It literally is. I mean, it's costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue a year.
I would also say that for a state to be so conservative as it is, the policy that they have with the ABC, which is essentially cartel-like, what it does is it prevents the free market expansion of business into the state.
Absolutely.
And we need to atone to that.
Absolutely. And the money that they were going to spend, or they would have to spend to bring that state warehouse into compliance of where it needs to be able to keep up with all the orders in the state, run efficiently, that cost would outweigh what it would cost in lost revenue for a few years.
For those who don't know, it's like 4 to 5 times what the ABC brings in a year.
Correct.
Is what it would take.
And I mean, not getting out, the state getting out of the liquor business would not only help bring in this economic growth, but it would help the local liquor stores. Some of them are against it. They don't want it
because they're small. Probably don't have the revenue. They're worried about being pushed out.
It's either 27 or 37%. The state taxes
27 right off the bat.
Right off the bat.
Yep.
So that liquor store just lost their ability to add a markup to make any money. I mean, they're still making money, but they're making here when it should be here. When a liquor store owner in Louisiana doesn't have that problem. They can mark it up to the same price we're making, and their profit margin just doubled. So it's a tough pill to swallow. But.
For sure, and I think there's also other issues. I'm told that the ABC up there in Jackson has a terrible time with quality delivery, on time delivery.
Broken bottles.
There's an efficiency issue.
Improper orders. Long lead times. Things not in stock. I mean, it's just.
It's the typical problems of bureaucracy you would expect. Whereas a company, that's real dollars they lose.
Right.
They solve those problems.
Absolutely.
So, interesting. Okay. Well, East Ocean Springs. Okay. We've talked about that. I guess we've kind of hit on 90. What have y'all looked into the cost to upgrading to a better light system, like just a complete overhaul of the traffic light system?
Oh, the traffic lights.
Traffic light.
Again, it's all state state-owned. MDOT owns all those lights and controls those lights.
So you couldn't pay for it for MDOT?
We can't do
really?
any improvement. We can barely cut, or not cut. We can barely maintain drainage on the sides. We have to get their permission to go in and update drain pipes under driveways off of 90.
Is that why people don't get arrested for kayaking in the ditches after a hurricane?
Absolutely, because MDOT would have to come do it. No, I think we would probably handle that for us. I don't think we'd arrest them, but we'd just say, hey, that's really not safe.
So I guess let's go down to downtown.
Okay.
Let's talk about downtown.
Great area.
Great area, yeah. I mean, it's this, between trees, culture, and downtown. I mean, that's the sort of trifecta, the attractive trilogy of the city. Mm-hmm. So, what does downtown mean to you?
It's probably our top economic engine. We combined everything downtown. Combined, it's at least equal to everything out east. Out east we generate quite a bit of tax income from Rouse's and Walmart and all your smaller businesses out that way. Medical. Medical complex right there, Ward 1, Ward 5 line. I mean, there's a lot of industry or business revenue out that way. Downtown is just its own little world. It's a destination from all over the country. I've met people from Canada, Germany, Australia.
I'll tell you what.
Everywhere. Just they all heard of Ocean Springs in one way or another, and they come here.
Downtown needs like a Bavarian Oktoberfest.
Well, they had that at the Mary C for a little while, kind of. It wasn't quite a Bavarian one. It was, I forget what they called it, but they had a little Oktoberfest. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, something like have you heard of Helen, Georgia?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they do one, and that's of course a Bavarian town in the mountains. But that'd be kind of fun. Anyway,
let's me and you get together and spearhead that.
Hey, I like that. Hey, I like where your head's at.
I'm down with that, man. I know a band.
We could do that. Yeah. Okay. You do. Perfect. Well, we do. Well, what's great too is I'm sure you give enough of a lead notice to these breweries, and they could probably pump out like a Hefeweizen beer, for that. But hey,
we know some beer people too.
Oh yeah,
we know people in that industry.
There you go. Yeah. So let's talk parking. Parking downtown.
Big issue.
What do you do about it?
Well, we have a public-private partnership in the works with the development at the old Swingster site, which is right there, 2 doors down west of Ocean Springs Lumber on the north side. When that development starts, the construction of a parking garage will be. We've received funds for this from the state.
Are these the BP funds?
Yes.
Okay.
Restore Act funds that we will be using to help construct the parking garage. First floor will be dedicated to that complex when it's built. The rest of it will be public parking for the city. So that will help. Outside of that, there's no immediate fix other than that and signage. That we have some parking lots that go unused. The one by Pleasant's Barbecue we're talking about is starting to be recognized. That thing's been there for years.
Really?
7-8 years. And used to, on the way downtown or the way to City Hall, look over, it's empty. 3 or 4 cars. Probably employees somewhere. But now it's slowly being discovered and starting to fill up. At nighttime, I've seen more and more people using it. But there needs to be more, we think, directional signage. And that's actually in the works right now, showing people public parking with an arrow, right, left, wherever it is. So parking is fixing to be identified a little better to help alleviate some of it. There's definitely an on-street parking problem on Government. With a narrow street, barely 2 cars being able to pass.
Yeah.
You got to think at some point when you got 2 cars passing, you'll have 4 cars wide there, 2 parked, 2 passing each other, and that's difficult on a narrow street.
Yeah.
And there's got to be a better plan, and it's a constant battle. It's a constant search for a solution that just hasn't reared its head yet.
I got a few I'd like to run by you.
Sure.
Okay. No, or golf carts only parking on government.
I don't think that's
around the downtown area.
I don't think that's a good idea.
No?
I mean, in theory, absolutely, because it cuts down on the number of cars and it makes it easier to travel.
Makes it wider.
It makes it wider for sure. But then you're telling your resident out in Ward 6 and Ward 5, you can't come park downtown because you can't bring a golf cart down.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, I'm just saying.
I don't work for the city. The city would be saying that.
Exactly.
Like, that's a y'all kind of problem.
That would be like us saying that you can't come bring your golf cart. You can't have a golf cart downtown.
Okay, I'll raise you one better in the same direction.
Yeah.
How about a pedestrian only zone?
Where?
Same area. Let's say, or we'll say government from Washington to the Mary C.
Okay.
Nope. Let's exclude Ocean Springs lumber.
Okay. All right. So you're going to tell.
Again, I do want to be clear. I'm not telling anybody anything.
So we would be saying, okay, you can't drive down to your local business you want to go to. You've got to go through a residential neighborhood, adding more traffic through a residential neighborhood on either side, and then you've got to find somewhere to park and walk.
You didn't let me finish, okay? Yeah. What I meant to say was it's going to be from Washington to where the parking garage is going to be. They park in the parking garage and they walk down there.
All right.
The only access is going to be for emergency vehicles, the ridiculously silly police golf carts, and the delivery trucks that obviously have to go down there for the businesses.
That's tough, man. That's tough. I mean, you really throw me a curveball there.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that aspect of things, but
I read about
great idea. No, walkability is something we really want to achieve in Ocean Springs, and we encourage that. But people just don't do it. Like I said, the reason that parking lot by Pleasance is so slimly used in the past is people just roll right by it and say, I want to get closer to where I'm going. People just will not, they don't want to walk. Some people do. There's a lot of us that do. But some people just say, I got to get as close as I can get to that front door. And then again, what about, you have handicapped people that have to park close. I mean, that would have to be a consideration as well. You have to have ADA accessible spaces for every business. So, I mean, that's options, that's, that's something that, and it's a great idea, and it would be a great public discussion to see where it would go. But I just, off the cuff, I would say probably not now.
Okay.
Maybe something in the future.
Okay. How about a curveball for you? Okay. Y'all employ a 16-year-old kid to drive a 6-person golf cart that's eco-friendly, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll pick up the people that park in ADA parking spots and take them down to their stores, and it'll be like a constant revolving thing.
Shuttle would be great. No, not just saying.
These are not well thought out, Robert. Look, I'm just trying to have fun with this.
And I love it, man. I love thinking off the cuff. I mean, let's go. Come on, throw the curveball, man. See if I can hit it out the park. No, we've actually discussed that for the further away parking lots in the past as some type of shuttle system. There was a guy that came to us one time right when we passed the golf cart ordinance, and he said, I just want to do it for free, for tips, basically. Do y'all have in mind if we do that? And we're like, if you're not a true business and you're just asking for a donation, we can't stop you. So
fair enough.
More power to you. Do it. Get you 3 or 4 golf carts and run people around. And I think it would be great. And but yeah, there needs to be something. Like I said, I don't know if the city would want to employ somebody to do that. Liability reasons and this and that, but it's something worth looking into. I like the idea, some type of shuttle system for the further away parking spots.
Robert, I like being around you because my terrible ideas, you always say that they sound like good ideas. Now, my wife's going to listen to this and be like, Robert's judgment is in question.
Yeah, I hear you. No, I mean, there's no, the only bad idea is one that's not brought to the table.
Right. Well, I think of Patton when he said, if everybody around me is thinking the same, then nobody's thinking.
Nobody's thinking. That's right.
Yeah. So, okay, are golf carts a problem in Ocean Springs?
To some they are. I don't think they are, in my opinion. I think they've been a benefit because, like you said, they do lessen some of the the traffic down there. You know, when you got mostly golf carts downtown, it's a good thing. Until, you know, you get the one that goes 19 miles an hour and somebody's trying to get by, you know. Most of them are respectful, though. Everybody I've seen on a golf cart that I've encountered, if you're behind them, they're going slow, they'll pull over and let you go around. And that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's a courtesy thing. You know?
Sure. Anybody who, I'll tell you, if somebody doesn't let me do that, right?
Yeah.
I instantly think you've never run track, because you know you're supposed to move to the outside lane.
Outside lane, that's right. Oh man, good stuff.
Okay, the last one I'd like to ask about downtown has to do with government being a one-way street. That seems to be a pretty common solution in a lot of downtown areas, Mobile as well, but Mobile is more of your block-style setup, consistent roads that meet one another,
That's right.
you know, as it's transcend the blocks.
Squared off roads, intersections. It's been kicked around. I'm not going to lie, 4 years ago, several of us talked about it, looked at it, but then we said, there again, do we really want to put all this traffic on the residences behind on either side of Government Street? You know, you'd be pushing traffic, you know, going one way. They didn't get to park where they wanted. They go turn down Bowen, and then they're all filtering down Bowen, residential, kids playing. I just don't think that's a good idea. And then you have them going up Robinson and you know, all this back there. I just don't think it's a great idea to put that much traffic down through residential areas when it's not necessary.
Sure. Well, then what solutions? What's a realistic solution to solve the downtown density problem?
Finding more parking somewhere.
Yeah. Is the city interested in? Well, I mean, honestly, it's the more popular downtown gets, the more expensive it's going to be to solve the problem.
Absolutely. You know, there's ideas. There's property behind Charred Restaurant back there off of DeSoto. There's already a city parking lot there. There's property behind it. You know, I don't think they've been approached and asked if they would sell it, but I think this idea has been floated around before for another parking structure there. Love to see that happen, you know, because that's in the heart of downtown. But then again, you have to weigh out options. Do you want to waste that prime real estate for a parking garage, or
that's a good
something
point.
else? But if you put something else there, then you just increase the density, and then you need more parking. So
it does seem like downtown, with the traffic problem, with the traffic and businesses that want to be there, that you're about to run into a problem of diminishing marginal returns, where you're going to bring in businesses, and because of the traffic issue, it doesn't matter how many more businesses there are and what the demand is, they can't increase revenue at all. Which just makes business more costly.
Absolutely, and you know, I hate to say that, but there's got to be a solution.
Is there a way to build another downtown Ocean or another wing of downtown Ocean Springs, maybe down Porter?
Wow, Porter's kind of touchy too. You know,
is it? Okay,
we do have an area there. You know, where Try Hard Sports and all that complex there, the greenhouse on Porter. The new Beatnik Hotel, the Roost, a lot of things going on down there, but it's highly residential too, you know, so you start mixing.
I guess there are those kind of older apartment complexes. There's those modern ones that just popped up.
Right. There's houses all the way down through there, and it's a good mix right now. I just don't think you want to push more businesses on residences out there.
I've got the solution. So look, you're going to love this. Okay. This is how we start the whole Bavarian thing. You're going to have, you know, we might have to put in a cobblestone road, but anyway, it's going to be businesses that are very European, business on the bottom, the Airbnbs up top.
That's perfect.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Perfect. And then we'll put like maybe there'll be a mainstay there that's going to be the big Bavarian restaurant. You know, you can get schnitzel there. It's going to be... All the beers are measured in liters.
Liters,
yeah.
Not just one at a time, like 2 liters.
Yeah, exactly. In Germany, I had a 3-liter beer.
Wow.
3-liter. You know, bucket list thing, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Wasn't a walking home under my own control kind of thing, but still, good time.
Get some help.
Good time. Yeah.
All right.
So one of the last topics I wanted to talk to you about is kind of a larger topic. Well, I guess I should ask, do you have a time constraint?
No.
Okay, because these typically go about an hour and a half or so.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Growth, right? Mm-hmm. Growing is important because we have to expand the city. We don't want to be landlocked within a city. That's obviously a problem. Growth comes at a cost, especially if we start taking on areas that have homes. Mm-hmm. If the city expands to cover that, will they have to expand the reach of police, fire, the underground infrastructure as well? Gulf Park Estates. Is there any consideration? Is there any value there for extending the city limits to cover Gulf Park Estates or the high school or the homes behind the high school?
There's been multiple discussions on annexation. I mean, that's what we're going, annexation.
Right.
Gulf Park Estates, great area. It's just not on the radar at this time because
it's got some sewer problems.
Massive amounts of sewer and water infrastructure issues that would have to be undertaken. It couldn't be done. I mean, you have a time restraint when you annex property.
It's 5 years, right?
I believe it's 3 to 5, okay. 3 to 5 years. You have to have all your infrastructure updated. We couldn't afford it. As much as I'd love to take in Gulf Park Estates, I mean, they are Ocean Springs. Don't get me wrong. That's Ocean Springs. Even though they're technically not in the city limits, they're still Ocean Springs. But that massive undertaking just is not in the budget at this time. Fortunately, though, again, when I spoke earlier about the infrastructure being put in place on the north side of 90, that also extended up 57, up Ocean Springs, down Ocean Springs Road back until Rod and Rail Road where the city limit picks back up. So all that's in place. That's ready for annexation.
What's the value of that? And are we talking about going north of I-10 on that?
That would be my hopes is that the line will be drawn. I'll just start from the beginning. All right, so everything that's on Government Street, in front of Gulf Park Estates, that's not in the city limits, we would just take those first row of property.
So north of
south side of Government.
So, okay, gotcha.
South side of Government. Everything that's not city. Our vision was to take that row of property all the way out to the high school. Okay. Minus the Sandhill Crane land because they're not going to give us that. So we just had the road through there. Go behind the high school to take the high school in. Take the line up Highway 57. Goshen has the east side already. Go all the way up to the shed. The preserve, they're not going to let us take that. I promise you, they wouldn't let us take that. So somewhere short of there, stop around the Coke plant and go down Fort Bayou, all the way to where it starts now is Rod and Rail Road, and that would complete our puzzle, so to speak, between Goshen and the county and Ocean Springs. It would be a complete corridor, and like I said, we've already got services out there. There would be nothing new to put in the ground. Water's there, sewer's there, the power companies, they've always got power there, so it'd be pretty easily done. It's just the engineering studies you have to do, the process you have to go through with the county to start, taking in their areas.
Right.
We've had discussions with both county supervisors in this area. They're on board with us to help us with a friendly annexation if we don't overstep. If we start talking St. Martin, there's going to be a fight.
Okay, really?
Yeah. They.
I guess there's a lot of economic development there.
They're adamant that they want to keep St. Martin, and we're okay. We want this to be friendly. We want to keep a working relationship that we have with you guys. So we don't want to talk about anything right now that you guys aren't interested in supporting us on. So I mean. And there again, it's not even really on the table at this point because there again, it's a huge undertaking and it's a large expense. You're going to spend starting at about $500,000, to $1 million to get this done. Then you have to weigh the benefits. Is it worth it? Like you said, you asked the question: what is the economic benefit. So there would be increased, property taxes coming in from that. Sunplex light industrial complex, that's some good tax revenue there.
Oh, for sure.
Would be coming from there.
And plus to have an Ocean Springs stamp on it too, which would probably be attractive to maybe cleaner industry too.
Then your services, you have to increase, your police protection, your fire protection. The trade-off is, though, because some people that live in the unincorporated part of the area there, they don't want to be in the city limits because of the higher taxes, property taxes. Yeah, I see you raising your hand. But there's a benefit to you as well.
Sure.
Your fire rating goes down.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We're fixing to be a class 4, we believe, at least a 5 when we get our new training tower built behind the fire station. So when that's done, your fire rating goes down, so your cost of fire coverage on your insurance policy goes down.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So I'm not going to say it's a complete wash, but you're going to have a savings. You're also going to fall into the city's flood insurance program. If you have required flood insurance, you would fall under the city now instead of the county. I believe the county's a class 7, and we're a class 6. So there's going to be a slight reduction in flood insurance. Just for coming into the city. So there's some trade-offs. Like I said, I know it's not popular for some people. And before we even moved forward with any talks of this, we'd have another public forum and just say, hey guys, here's our map we've drawn, what we'd like to do. What are your thoughts? Then we'd hear from the public before we even thought about moving forward.
Interesting. Oh, that sounds fantastic. Is Jackson County? Are there any areas within the sort of Ocean Springs or Greater Ocean Springs area, aside from, we'll say, north of Fort Bayou, because it sounds like they don't want any part of that deal? But is there any area where they're like, no, you can't, you can't have this? Because you said you didn't want Gulf Park Estates. Would they fight you on Gulf Park Estates?
Probably not.
Okay.
And it's not that we don't want Gulf Park Estates. Like I said, I'd love to take Gulf Park Estates there because it's a massive number of folks in there.
Yeah, but the infrastructure is a problem.
The infrastructure is the biggest issue. If that system would have been put in properly and maintained properly years ago when that was developed, it would probably have already been annexed years ago. It's just, nobody can afford it. Yeah. Nobody can afford it right now. Or we can't, I'm not saying Gaucher might come over and get it, but I doubt it. Yeah. We'll have to skip over some of us. But, you want to be a Gaucher?
Yeah, that's a hard pass. That's a hard pass. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I guess the last question I have, and, it's the gotcha moment, in case you're wondering.
Here it is.
But what's your position on Ocean Springs having a Chick-fil-A?
Oh, man. I wish we had one 10 years ago. It would be great. Yeah, we've spoke to those guys. There's been several conversations between property owners and some people at City Hall, and there again, they want to be here. I don't think they found the right spot. I'm not going to say it's off the table. I just don't know when it's going to happen. Yeah. I really hope it happens soon.
Well, if you get the right anchor store, maybe they'll just come right in afterwards.
If we can put something there, let them be an out parcel right up front. Yeah. Man, that would kill it.
Yeah, right there, East Ocean Springs. Yes. Maybe the next building over from say St. Paul's, and then boom.
Oh yeah, after church traffic. Yeah. Oh no, they're closed on Sundays.
That's true. That's true. But you make your 2 rights to get the Chick-fil-A.
That's right. That's right.
Out of the baseball place.
Hey, and that brings them all down too. Let's get Chick-fil-A. Well, let's go check out all this downtown too while we're here. And then they pass Woody's, and let's go to Woody's.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Woody's is great. Well, Robert, how do people get in touch with you?
So I can be reached by phone, 228-381-0830. Okay. My email is rblackman, BLACKMAN, at oceansprings-ms.gov. And
Ocean Springs is spelled out?
All one word, Ocean Springs, yes.
Gotcha. Okay, excellent. And are you on Facebook?
I am.
Okay. Do you have a specific Facebook page for this?
Yeah, I have a personal page.
Everybody, welcome. You're probably wondering why that video ended so abruptly. Here's what you missed. First, obviously, you missed us signing off. You also missed Robert describing how to get in contact with him on Facebook. So the way to do that is to search for Rob Blackman or his Alderman page, which is Robert Blackman, Alderman, Ward 5. Robert, apologies that happened. Everybody else, if you're running for a position in this year's election and I haven't talked to you, shoot me a message. Let's chat. And if you're somebody who you feel has a great story to tell, or you know somebody who has a great story to tell, shoot me a message. You can find those links in the description of this video. I hope you all are enjoying the show, and have a good one. See ya.